Hey y'all, it's Tony again with lesson 2. I want to go ahead and jump in, but I also want to preface this video like I do the rest of the videos. I'm not a financial or legal advisor. I'm not selling you an ebook or a course. I'm not even teaching you. I'm just documenting my journey so that I have something to look back on, as well as this is my learning style by taking in the information and seeing if I could talk about it. If I talk about it, I know that I know about it. So let's get started. So we'll just do like a quick little review of lesson 1. So in lesson 1, and like I said, I got my whiteboard, my notes, and my laptop. So in lesson 1, we're gonna do a little review. We learned about stocks, which is a share of ownership in a company. And I guess I didn't really like explain the difference between stock and a share, because honestly I didn't really know at the time. But a stock is like the broader sense of a share, so it's still like ownership in a company, but it's like the broader picture, and the share is like the specific piece of ownership of that company. So that's a stock and a share. The ticker symbol is an identification code for, I don't know why that word always tripped me up, but an identification code for a company in the stock market. A broker is the middleman between you, the buyer or the seller, and the stock market. So you go in, you press buy or sell to a broker. You go in and deposit money to a broker. Press buy, well, press order, because your order is instructions on what you want your broker to do in the stock market. So that's what a broker is. It's the middleman between you and the stock market. P&L is profit and loss. That's pretty self-explanatory. And the market is just a big auction or marketplace with buyers and sellers who are making trades. That's what a market is, or stock market is. So let's keep it moving on to lesson 2. So lesson 2, well, back in lesson 1, I told you that we were going to speak more on what orders were and what happens when you press buy. So we're going to get started there. So what really happens when you press buy? Let's see. These are today's vocabulary words, so you'll be able to know these words by the end of this lesson. Buy, sell, order, bid, ask, spread, market order, limit order, fill, and slippage. And it sounds like a lot, but once you start getting into the lesson, everything gonna start flowing together, and it ain't gonna seem like it's a lot. Because that's definitely what I said when I'm like, wait a minute, that's a lot. But I want to teach it all together because they all kind of go hand in hand. So first, buying a stock works like shopping, and I told y'all that yesterday, where you go into the grocery market, you see that it's a price, you're okay with paying that price as the buyer, and you go pay that price, and that's a transaction that you made. So buying stocks is similar in that sense. So back to TJP. Remember, TJP is our ticker symbol. So suppose you open a brokerage app and you see TAP has a stock price of $10, and so you decide, okay, the price is at $10. I want to buy 10 shares. Okay, so you press buy. But here's what you need to know about pressing buy. It doesn't magically create your shares. Remember when I said you can't actually go in and press buy and now you automatically own those shares? That's not how it works. So you should think about it as like Facebook Marketplace. When you go in, you say, I want to buy a couch, so I'll buy a couch. And so you find a seller and they're like, okay, well, I'll sell the couch. I have a couch that I want to sell you. So the transaction happens when you both agree on that price, and that's the same as the stock market, right? All right, so this is the same as the stock market, but you got to remember that it's moving at a very, very fast pace. Like, they're not waiting on you or one other buyer, one other seller. It's moving. It's constantly moving. Okay, so that brings us to Well, that lets us know what a buyer and a seller is. So when you're buying, we all know you want something, I'm willing to pay this price. And when you're selling something, I want to give something, or not give, but I want to make a profit off of something, and I'm willing to let it go at this price. All right, so that's buy and sell. And now we're going to move on to order. So when you press buy or sell in that brokerage account, you're giving your broker an instruction. So an order is a set of instructions, what you want that broker to do with that deposit. Okay, so for example, if you say I want to buy 10 shares of TJP, that's an order that you're giving to the broker. All right, but here's a problem. At what price? So this is where things kind of get interesting when it comes to the stock market, okay? So there isn't one stock price. Even though you saw that it said TJP is the price is $10, okay? That's not necessarily how it works. So it says the displayed number could represent a recent traded price, while buyers and sellers currently have different prices they're willing to accept. So it's showing you what somebody paid or what somebody bought or sold for that price. But like I said, it's constantly moving. So if you have new sellers or new buyers, there are going to be new prices. And we just don't know, right? So then that brings us to the next two set of vocabulary words, which is bid and ask. So we know what a buyer is. We know what a seller is. We know that an order is a set of instructions that you give to the broker, okay? All right, cool. So now we're going to learn what bid and ask means. So a bid is from the buyer. It is what the buyer is offering. When you're in an auction and you bid something, it's because you want to buy it, but at a certain price, okay? So a bid is the highest displayed price a buyer is currently willing to pay. I don't want to go much more than this price to buy this. So remember, as like BB cream, or how people say BB, buyer's bid, okay? Now, let's say TJP's bid is $9.99, so $9.99, right? That means that the buyer is currently bidding as high as $9.99 a share. It can either be $9.99 a share or lower, because $9.99 is my bid price. I don't want to go above that. Remember, it's the highest price that a buyer is willing to pay. Okay, so that brings us to ask. Ask is what the seller is asking for. So I really don't have no way for you to remember that, but bid, buy, and a seller's asking. Okay, so you can have the seller say, nope, I'm not taking $9.99. I want $10.05. So a ask is the lowest displayed price that a seller is currently willing to accept. So remember, I said for the bid and the buyer, that's the highest displayed price that a buyer is willing to pay. But the ask is the lowest price that a seller is willing to accept. So if TJP's ask is $10.01, that means the seller is offering shares at $10.01. That means my price not going no lower than that. You either pay that or it ain't no trade. Okay? I'm not going any lower than that. Even though the buyer said, hey, I want it for $9.99, the seller can still say, no, I'm not taking that. That's too low.